Hey Tackle Warehouse fans, Mike Iaconelli here. Want to talk to you about the recent tournament, the Bassmaster Classic on Lake Conroe. I had a super strong finish, had an opportunity to win going into the last day, ended up in 6th place. Awesome tournament for me. Lake Conroe fishes really tough. Small lake, a lot of pressure, and it was no different for the Bassmaster Classic. I found 2 patterns going into the event. One was upriver flipping, but my primary pattern caught the bulk of my big fish on it was fishing deep, fishing offshore. And what I looked for was hard bottom areas in zones where the fish were coming in or going out of spawning places. I found a few in the lower end of the lake, and I found a few mid-lake at the mouths of coves and pockets. And I relied on 2 baits that were bottom baits to catch a lot of those really big fish. For those of you guys that watched it on Bassmaster Live, you saw me in action with these baits. I want to talk to you a little bit about them. The first one was an old standby for me, especially in Texas when you're fishing these hard bottom transition areas, and it's a Carolina rig. A lot of people call it the ball and chain. It's a great search bait. It's a great lure for big fish, especially in the state of Texas. And the setup I used was really simple. I used a 1/2 ounce VMC tungsten barrel weight. I used an 8mm plastic bead as a separator to protect my knot. I used a VMC barrel swivel, and then just a leader, about 1.5 foot, a 2-foot leader, to a 3/0 offset VMC Ike approved hook in a standard gauge. On the meat end of that, I kept it really, really simple, and I used a 6-inch Berkley Power Lizard in green pumpkin, as simple as you can get it. And the key for me was to make cast along that hard bottom area, to feel it digging into the rock, and when I felt it hitting that rock, I would slow down and let that lizard glide down. Caught several of my big fish during the Classic, including the almost 9-pounder on the last morning of the Classic. As far as rod, reel, line, once again, I kept it simple. I used the Ike Series Abu Garcia 7/6 medium heavy Power Series casting rod. I paired that with the Revo MGX, and that's in the 7:9 to 1 gear ratio. And finally on line, I used 20-pound Berkley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon for my main line, and I used 17-pound Berkley Trilene 100% fluorocarbon from my leader. And it was a great combination to fish that rock. But as the tournament went on and things got tougher, I added a finesse combination into the mix, another great lure to fish in those rocky areas. And it is a shaky head, another standby for me when I'm fishing that rock transition area. And I used a lure that has really won a lot of money for me, not only at Lake Conroe, but all across the country, and it's a shaky head. I used the VMC 3/16 ounce rugby head. I used a really amazing little worm. It's the Berkley Havoc bottom hopper in a color called Red Bug. And I just bit down about 1/4 of an inch off of it. I make sure that bait was nice and straight. And this lure would contact that rock and stand in the nose down position. For rod, reel, and line, I used the Abu Garcia Ike Series spinning rod in the 6/6 medium heavy. This is a rod I designed especially for shaky head fishing. The reason for that short rod, the 6/6, it forced me to slow down. The shorter the rod, the slower you're working the bait because you're pulling it less. On reel, I used that Abu Garcia MGX 20 spinning reel. And finally on line, I used 15-pound Berkley braid to 10-pound 100% Berkley Trilene fluorocarbon. These 2 bottom bouncing baits, so key to my Classic finish. In the pre-spawn and post-spawn, find that rock transition, drag a bait on the bottom, and you're going to have success. Mike Iaconelli talking about the Bassmaster Classic on Lake Conroe for Tackle Warehouse.